Chapter 6 The Geographer's Box. On the day Miss Hussey had given the art assignment, Calder went straight up to his room after school. He sat down at his desk, pulled out his pentominoes. The W fit into the Y, and the U and the I slid in agreeably next to the L. The X was difficult to work into the rectangle, but it might fit. Here, between the P and the U, pentominoes always helped him think. He wrote down the word art. He followed it quickly with R-T-A. R-A-T-A-T-R-T-R-A. It wasn't what he meant to put on his list, but his pencil kind of took charge. He read what he'd written out loud. It was a tongue twister, he noticed with delight, aside from being almost every combination of A, R, and T. Calder shook himself back toward the assignment. Was his weird list a piece of art? How about the old-fashioned kind of art, the kind in museums that turns up on postcards and posters, in people's kitchens, the kind that they've been talking about in school today? Miss Hussey was saying, listen to your own thinking. Well, what if he, and not those museum people, was the one to decide what was wonderful to look at? What would he choose? The same stuff that was now famous? Probably not the French lady with the dress that's too small. Art for him was something puzzling. Yes, something that gave his mind a new idea to spin around. Something that gave him a fresh way of seeing things each time he looked at it. What was he remembering? He curled under his bed and dragged out a dusty crate filled with Green Army men. He dug down into the corner, pulled out a small box. Calder held the box carefully in both hands. It was made of dark wood, and the corners were covered with an inlaid silver vines. The painting at the top showed a man with his ponytail-length hair leaning over a table. He was dressed in a fancy bathrobe, and his face was turned thoughtfully toward the window. A tool that resembled a compass was held lightly in the right hand. A large roll of paper lay under his right arm. There was a wrinkled oriental rug bunched up on the corner of the table in front of him, and his left hand rested on what appeared to be a book. A globe sat high on the cupboard behind him. His expression looked as though he'd been thinking of important thoughts, and something had, just in that moment, interrupted him. Calder felt a sense of understanding, of sympathy for this man. This is what it felt like when he suddenly had to pay attention in school. Calder had always loved this picture. Reaching for his magnifying glass, he held it over the top of the box. He saw light sparkle from the old glass in the window, and the rug came alive with the blues and the warm gold tones. On the tall cupboard was written the word Mir. 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 He rolled the word around in his mind. He wished Grandma Regina had told him more. He tried to remember exactly why she had given him the box. He had been small enough to sit on her lap, and playing with her reading glasses. He might have been 4 or 5. He could remember her blue velvet rocker, the cracks on her knuckles, her gentle cheeks, and the color of dark chocolate. Grandma Regina had loved puzzles and mysteries, and would have approved of Miss Hussey. Calder grabbed the box and rushed downstairs. He would take a rainbow bath, as Grandma Regina used to call it. On late afternoons in the fall, the sun came through the ledged glass window in the Philbys' living room, and threw rainbow wavy rhombi and polygons on the floor. The walls, the backs of the chairs, the sofas, this parade of soft color traveled slowly up one side of the room, vanished in the corner of the ceiling. Grandma Regina always swore that sitting in geometry helped the brain. Calder began to write. The man in my hand looks toward the window, and the light lands on one arm, one cheek, and the paper on his table. You know the way paper gets blinding in bright light? Well, this paper almost makes you squint. The colors around him are blue, red, and light brown. A scrunched up rug was on the edge of the table between him and me, as if someone tossed it up there when they were cleaning the floor and forgot to put it back. And now for weight and size. This thing is about as heavy as a bag of chocolate chip cookies, or maybe an empty spaghetti sauce jar, or a large t-shirt. It is about as thick as a dictionary and as long as a medium tube of toothpaste. Calder paused, the box in his right hand, and he looked at the rainbows floating on the far wall. He realized with a shiver of pleasure that the afternoon light was landing on his body in a way that was similar to the fall of the light in the picture, and he wondered if he also looked like he was thinking great thoughts. He was interrupted by loud voices outside the front window. When he peered out, he saw Miss Husey and Mr. Watch, his boss from Powell's. What on earth are they doing? And then Calder noticed an old lady sitting on the ground between them. When he opened the front door, Miss Husey shouted, "Water! Get some water!" By the time he was back with the glass, the old lady was standing. Calder didn't recognize her. Miss Husey said, "Thanks, Calder. I didn't know you lived right here." She explained what Mr. Watch had just told her. He usually walked Miss Sharp to Powell's once a week to pick out some books. Miss Husey had just happened to be just behind them. She'd seen Miss Sharp stumble and sink to the curb. Mr. Watch looked embarrassed. Miss Sharp looked irritated. "What would I need water for?" she snapped. "Stupid, these new shoes. A grasshopper couldn't walk in them." Was she calling Miss Husey stupid? If so, Miss Husey didn't seem to notice. She offered Miss Sharp her arm. Calder went back inside and watched her from the front window until he couldn't see the three of them any more. That evening, Calder got a letter. Ripping it open, he grinned. Who else? And this is the letter that he saw right next to me. He hurried up to his room to dig out the pentomino code that he'd made for himself and Tommy before they left. And this is the code that he had gotten. Calder decoded the message. Worried, he went out the kitchen to tell his parents the news. The letter says, Calder, name of kid next door is Frog. Vanished last week. I think kidnapped. Have to stay inside. Mom afraid. New York stinks. Tommy. Everyone in the Philly house felt bad. Moving to a new neighborhood was hard enough, but having a kid next door suddenly disappear seemed like a bad joke. Tommy had never known his real father. During the past winter, his mom, Zelda, who worked in the university library, took a vacation with two other women. They went to Bermuda. She came back with a husband. At first, Tommy was very quiet and didn't want to talk about old Fred, as he started calling him. Fred tried hard to be a dad. He played baseball with Tommy in the park. He came to school and met many of the teachers. He took Tommy and Calder to 53rd Street for hot fudge sundaes all the time and let them get any size they wanted. After a while, it seemed like Tommy was starting to like him. And then old Fred announced last July 4th, Calder remembered the date because it took the bang right out of the fireworks, that the family would need to move to New York. He had bought a house in the suburbs without even telling Tommy's mom, and of course not the kid, Tommy said when he was telling Calder. And now this Frog business. What kind of name was Frog anyway? Calder wrote Tommy right back, also in code, and it said, Tommy, so sorry about Frog. Maybe you can solve the mystery and be a hero. Be careful. Calder. Tommy had always liked spying. Maybe this was an opportunity not to be a mediocre kid. Calder smiled, remembering their conversation in the kitchen when he had first gotten the pentominos. He had hoped his message would help. After writing the letter and sealing the envelope, it occurred to Calder that maybe this is bad advice. What if something horrible had happened to the kid next door? Whoever was responsible wouldn't want another kid snooping around. Calder's parents had told him the chance of it being a real kidnapping were small. He hoped they were right.